Welcome to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society, whose mission is making connections through music with the intention of bringing peace. And today, we're nowhere near Studio One of the worldwide headquarters of the Planetary Gig Society. We are in Denver, Colorado for the annual gala of Up With People. And I have the distinct pleasure of talking today with Diane Phillips, who was with Up With People, and we're going to talk about that. But thanks very much, Diane, for being here.
My pleasure.
So, Up With People, we've discussed a little bit in prior podcasts, and one of the founders of Planetary Gig Society, Tara Gorman, the goddess of awesomeness, was with Up With People, and I've just been amazed, really, by what a great organization, the fabulous things that it does for young people going around the world, singing, learning about each other, traveling together. It's really fabulous, and I know that you had a great experience with Up With People, and so perhaps you could just talk a little bit about, well, first maybe how music kind of came into your life and how you eventually ended up with Up With People, and we'll talk a little bit about, some of the things that occurred to you with the cast and since then about music in your life.
Sure. I guess I was exposed to music at quite a young age in a very simple way, with family singing in the car on car trips. Mm-hmm. And we were given music lessons and appreciation for music. And my siblings and I approached music in different ways over our lives. But we all had a little bit of formal training. And we always, even before those lessons, we would be wanting to perform for our family, like whether it was a play or whether it was a song. And the best part, of course, was dressing up in a costume, whether it had anything to do with the song or not. So
how old were you?
I could have been maybe grade 1, kindergarten, grade 1.
Yeah.
And we have some pictures and probably not a lot of recordings of those early years. And so as we progressed through our lives, singing was always at the core. And if we were doing dishes, we sang. If we were on that family road trip, we sang. And it was something that I think was instilled in us by our grandmother Kips, who was my mom's side. She wasn't a singer, but she knew all these old British songs that were really catchy.
Did you say British?
Yeah. She came over from England to Canada. So she taught us all these songs, and my mother knew them, of course. And then things just kind of went off from there, where we joined school choirs, we joined church choir. Any opportunity we had to sing, that's where we went. And the piano lessons came along with that. So throughout our lives, the three of us went different directions musically. I went the more formal training aspect of it, but always continued with choirs. And the choirs the first time I realized that I really wanted to perform was in grade 7. In elementary school, we did the musical Tom Sawyer. Mm-hmm. And I got the role of Aunt Polly. And that's when I fell in love with being on the stage in that way.
Nice.
And that doing a musical brings in some solo work. It brings in a lot of people as well, and comradeship, camaraderie. And at that point, I guess my parents came and they didn't really know I could sing, even though we sang all the time. They didn't know I could sing. And I expressed my interest in voice lessons. So that's when that started. You
started voice lessons like 7th grade?
In grade 8, yeah. After that grade 7 experience with the musical. And that brought me into a huge community of musicians in our city of Saskatoon, who were, I suppose they were young musicians at the time and aspiring musicians and singers. And that led to meeting people that had the same interests that way. One of them being my now husband, and he was in a choir that was set to celebrate the century of Saskatoon, 100 years of Saskatoon becoming a city. And they were called Special Reasons. And I was also singing in another little group, and somehow our paths crossed, and I got to know him a little bit. I was about 15 at the time. And at that time, Up With People was in Saskatoon. They had been there before.
You mean they had come through and performed at your school or something like that?
That's right. And so my husband was 19 at that time, and so he saw the show, and having been in this choir which got to entertain the Up With People cast during Green Room or something like that, he interviewed and got accepted. And so I think at that point I really got to know him, and then he traveled for a year. I kept doing my music thing, but I didn't pursue it in university. I was in psychology.
What kind of songs were you singing then? I mean, you mentioned the Tom Sawyers first, but were you doing show tunes or?
There was, a lot of interest in show tunes, a lot of interest in, we would do people's anniversaries. So they were very much 1940s, 50s, very singable things.
Yeah, great music from that era.
And in no way was I a versatile singer. Like, I couldn't do that and then belt out a pop tune. I was formally trained, competed in music festivals and did exams and things like that through what we call the Royal Conservatory of Music, that has a graded system for singing. And so when my husband came back, well, he wasn't my husband at the time, but we started dating. Right. And then after a couple of years, I thought, I really want to do what you did, because more casts had come through, but there wasn't going to be one. And he encouraged me to do that. So that is what brought me to our lovely Tara, with Cast C 1986, Up With People. And for me, I was interested in the performance aspect of things, even though I knew Up With People looks for a diverse group of people. We don't all have to be divas, but we do have to have an interest in people. And music was just the mechanism by which you connected. And so to be with Tara for that year and about 120 other people from 20 different countries, had a really intense experience together, traveling around the world for 1 year, and then it was over, and we all went our separate ways. But Up With People, because of the strength of his music, kept us all connected, for sure. And some of us continued our pursuit in music. So I had transferred to the College of Education when I came back, and I got a degree in teaching elementary school with music and social studies as my majors, and then had a voice and piano studio out of my home for many years. Taught? Yeah.
Let me ask, so you obviously spent a lot of time and were very interested, put a lot of intention on music, prior to Up With People, and then Up With People and after. What do you feel that you sort of learned from it? What did it give you, or what? Some people talk about young people, young adults who music really gives them a focus that spills over to other areas. And how did music affect you sort of before and after Up With People? Was there more of a rocket ship of learning after Up With People, or anything you could?
I would say that up until the end of Up With People and into my late 20s, like sort of after kids, music was about what music could give me, and the love of the thunder of the applause and the soothing, all those more private moments with music. But performance was sort of my focus and purpose for music, to perform. I wasn't the hardest worker at it, but it served well in that I knew that I could do it, but I also knew what my restrictions were. And part of that was the work ethic. For example, I would never be a concert pianist. I would never be an opera singer. But I always knew it was still accessible to me. Just because I couldn't be those things didn't mean that music couldn't be part of my life. And so in using it as an educator, that really helped me to develop a love for what music could do for other people. And to nurture young singers and young pianists was really rewarding. and to see them put themselves out there and do their best and really grow and develop, which is what Up With People did for us in that really intense time. So even people who didn't have performance experience discovered they could. Those of us who had performance experience thought, well, performance is great, but there is something else, and I'm maybe not wired that way as much as I thought I would be. And so as I got more into the education aspect of things, performance became less for me personally, as I helped others move into that vein. So with my studio, with my direction in schools, that covered probably about another, and I was not in the school system as much as 20 years by any means, but I always had a studio in my home, or I directed a choir of some kind. So when I finished teaching school, I kept that studio. I had 4 sons, all of whom were given the gift of piano lessons, singing choirs. What would you like to do?
Nice.
None of them bit. One of them, really excelled. But I like to think that what I've done is create an appreciative audience for music. And I believe that I have 4 sons who will support the arts and live performance. And to me, that's worth a lot. And even when I wasn't teaching, I did find ways to use my music in very compartmentalized fashion. And this is where the evolution of music for me began. Yes, it's performance, but it's also music can be used, and especially singing, can be used for connecting and for creating space for everyone and anyone. My sister, Brenda Baker, is the founder of Kids of Note and the Notations, which are 2 choirs for children and youth and young adults with and without disabilities. And she founded this choir about 13 years ago when she had a child with disabilities who she knew there would not be a place for her to sing because of her disability. And another woman came to her with her young daughter who had that challenge. And so my sister, being the person she is, decided, much like Tara, well, that's just not going to do. And so we will start one. And she did that, just that. And the positions were half for children with disabilities and half without, so that there was an integrated sense of choir. That there was, and it wasn't about helping people with disabilities. It was about what we have to offer each other equally because of our differences there. And then when kids outgrew that choir, they needed another place to sing, and that brought the Notations, which is the 18 to young adults, I think up to 30. And she asked me to direct that choir. And that was where I realized that I had been missing the root of music, which was joy. That the music wasn't about singing the exact right note. It wasn't about making sure that phrase was exactly shaped the way it should be and then getting adjudicated and judged on that. It was about people coming together who love to sing and putting on a concert twice a year for an audience. And that's what they've been doing for about 13 years now. I retired last spring with Kids of Note to pursue some other endeavors, mainly rest at this point. But the choirs continue, and they will be having their spring show on April 29th. So they've done a Christmas concert in December, and then they do another show. And you can check them out at kidsofnote.com online. I think it's .com or .ca, and get more information there. But that was where I realized that I had kind of lost something in music, and that I had let that go because of sort of the need for perfection, or the fear of not doing it the way it's supposed to be done, or also for just kind of becoming indifferent. Not having a studio anymore, just doing bits here and there. I had become quite indifferent about music. While I still enjoyed it, it just didn't have the same pull for me as it did when I first heard a Kids of Note concert. First of all, tears, just tears. And the parents there and the audience, they all feel the same thing. It's like, I don't know what I'm hearing here, but I'm hearing with more than just my ears. I am hearing something with my body, because the emotion just comes out, right?
Right.
So when you can hear with your body, that changes everything. You have a visceral response to what's not just the music, but to how the music is shared.
Yeah, it's just, I feel that many times with music, listening to music, playing, finishing a song up, and you just kind of go, wow, and it sort of permeates your whole self. Well, you've had a fabulous, career and experiences so far. I wanted to ask about a couple things. One is, there is a lot of work involved in music. I mean, you started singing when you were young, and it was something you always did, and then you liked the performance. And you're saying, maybe I didn't have the same drive to put in 24/7 just for music, but it still does take work and kind of intention to get there. I mean, how have you seen that maybe displayed or shown in your classmates or castmates or teacher or people that you've taught, and particularly with the students with the disabilities? What's music's particular gift to them, do you think?
I think they get an opportunity, because of the way the choir is set up as integrated, to understand that everyone has a part to play, regardless of, I shouldn't say regardless, everyone has a part to play because of who they are.
Ah, nice.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we have, and I'll give you an example, we had a high, my terminology is not good, an autistic girl who was behavior was really unpredictable. And we were just trying her out in the choir to see if it was a good fit. And it worked out okay. So when it came to writing the show, which always follows a theme, we have solos, we have group singing, we have MC parts, like people to talk about what's coming next. Mm-hmm. So whenever I think about the script for that show, I try and think about what the person already does and work it in. So instead of having this script and having someone try to be that script, the script is written with people's gifts in mind. So this one girl, all she would say is French fries, because she loved to go out for French fries all the time. And another time, she always liked to sing the song, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." So in one show, I was able to work her French fries words into an MC about the reception downstairs. So I had the MC reading, talking about food, and there was a place for Alexa to say her French fries part. So that worked out. Another time, we weren't doing "We Wish You a Merry Christmas" as a song, but the MC part consisted of two of them, one saying, "What's your favorite carol, Alexa?" And she instantly sang, "We Wish You a Merry Christmas."
Nice.
Just that. So those are the kinds of things where barriers are taken down, and everything it's not about the disability or the not disability. It's about who they are as people and bringing their gifts to the fore.
And everybody contributing kind of what they can, which I guess requires a view of what the goal is, song performance, but being able to listen, appreciate, understand what different people bring.
Exactly.
Because, the bass player brings something different than the guitar player and the drummer and whatever, but when you're dealing with younger people and their learning and all, I suppose it's really important to hear what they have to say.
Absolutely. And being in Up With People, where we had experience and exposure to all sorts of community action, I felt that I had a certain skill set that I could bring to the table with helping to organize these things with the production of a show and sort of a different take on things than what was there before. So it's still a full 1 hour show, all the blocking, everything happens as if you were doing an Up With People show. Everybody has to know their places. Everybody has to know their parts. There's got to be a blocking rehearsal. There's got to be microphones used and how do they get used and who gets what. And then if something unpredictable happens, well, you just go with it.
Yeah.
It's like anything.
Because it always does, of course.
Exactly. And so that's that part of me I think, that part of music that I was able to get back from the Kids of Note and the notations. I got it in Up With People. I lost it for a while. I got it back. And I have to say, when I came to Broomfield, Colorado to see the show of Up With People, and my son Avery is in the cast this year, I sat in on the rehearsal. And nothing had even started yet. They were just still all around on stage and talking and getting ready to start. And I could feel the tears coming up. It was just that. The music of Up With People just is moving. And
joyful.
Joyful, moving, and again, it touches you. You don't just hear it, you hear it with your body.
You feel
it, and it's such a different level.
So, I mean, you really have been fortunate, although I kind of believe people create their own way to a certain extent, in having that experience with Up With People yourself, and knowing what similar experiences other people in other years, and even the current cast have had. What would you say is sort of your feeling about the relationship you have with the cast members, your own cast members, with other cast members, and how that feeling of community joy, whatever, will continue, and where do you maybe see that leading in this crazy world that we have?
Well, it's been about 32 years for me since I traveled. I've been to almost every reunion except our 5-year reunion, because my husband traveled. We also go to his reunions and have that connection. And for me, it's just this unspoken understanding that no matter where you are in this world, I can always reach out to you. You can reach out to me. And when we can get together and reconnect through the songs that were in our show, that's something special. And I often have people comment on, wow, that is so amazing that you're able to do that, and that these people globally, and that you just haven't sort of, well, it's something I did once.
Yeah, what comes to mind, and as I'm thinking that phrase, doesn't get any better than that. Mm-hmm. Just that sort of bond, that community, that shared experience, and I think shared hope too.
Mm-hmm. And this year's show is called is all about hope, and I think it's a really timely theme to be working with, and it's something that I could never have predicted back in 1986, that this would be, it's like a hologram, it's so multidimensional and multifaceted that you can't even begin to describe those connections, because I don't even know them all yet myself. And I hope that the people that have been in my cast and subsequent casts, those who love music, continue to love music and bring it to the fore. I hope they use it in today's world to serve. And as I've talked about, when I was young, it was about the performance and pleasing the audience, and of course getting something back that was instant gratification through applause or through feedback. And as the years have gone on, I've changed my focus, and I think a lot of Up With People do as well as they age. My latest project and my latest endeavor is probably, again, through the community action that Up With People had me involved in, where I've joined at something called Threshold Singers, and I'm pretty fresh.
Oh, I might have heard of that.
Yeah, there's a chapter. They started out of California, and there's a set number of songs that are written for crossing over, for people who are crossing over. And a chapter has started up in Saskatoon, and I looked at choirs in Saskatoon. Maybe I should join one again. And then when this came up through actually another Up With People alumni.
Of course.
Who has got an amazing story to tell herself. I saw her on Facebook, I think, and what they were doing, and I thought, I think that's it. I think that's what I can do. And I've just found that service in music, although I haven't experienced yet singing at bedside for someone who is dying, I'm getting the sense that I can do this type of pastoral care, hospice type care, with some more experience. So that's my latest exploration of using music, and it's so different from performance.
Yeah.
Like you have to be so quiet. There's only 3 of you in a room. You're very exposed, but the focus is about the person in the bed and the family around and how we honor that situation. So we will be having a workshop in April that I'll be attending to learn more about that. And I'm working on the songs to learn them, but it couldn't be any more different than when I was in my early life.
It's amazing. I think when one sort of opens himself up to music, and I didn't have music in my family as a kid. I got bit by the blues harmonica bug years later, but now, learning guitar for a couple of years, it's difficult. It's hard. It takes hard work, but somehow I guess I invited music into my soul, and it said, you should do this Planetary Gigs thing and these talks, and it's so amazingly rewarding and joyful to be able to talk with people like you who've done so much really through music for other people, so thank you very, very much for taking the time to be here. I find stories about music in people's lives to be very inspiring, and yours as well.
Thank you. Well, you certainly got me thinking and putting things in perspective, so I thank you. It's a privilege.
All right. Well, great, very much. So, Diane Phillips, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Planetary Gig Talk, Tales of Music and Magic. I'm your host, Jefferson Glassy, Chief Spiritual Dude of the Planetary Gig Society. We talk with musicians and others about the power of music and how we can use music to help create a better world. Please check out our website, www.planetarygigs.org, for information about some of the organizations promoting music and musicians, resources about the power of music, books, movies, articles, including new research on music and the brain. We welcome your support. The Planetary Gig Society is a Section 501c3 charitable organization, and you can donate on the website. You also can receive a free email signature block demonstrating your support for Planetary Gig Society. Please follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Planetary Gigs. And we want to thank fabulous musician and teacher Eric Weinberg of Little Eric Studios for the Planetary Gig Talk music titled Chill Kid, It's Saul. So please check out Planetary Gig Talk on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Subscribe and hear all the upcoming episodes. Thanks very much.